Hey YouTube, how you doing? Vision Boy 1993 here. Today I'm going to show you how oil lubrication works in a two-stroke, single-cylinder, two-strokes, single-cylinder, four-strokes. It's really easy. Matter of fact, if most of you experts and old-timers know how to do this, this is mainly for the beginners. So if you want, you can watch, but it's mainly for the beginners. But it's actually really easy. Two-stroke, four-stroke oil lubrications without oil pumps. Actually, it's really simple. So enough talking. Why don't I show you now? Okay, so I'm gonna just start with a basic two-stroke motor right here. Two-stroke cylinder and a cylinder head. It's actually all not that complicated, you know. It's a single cylinder. There's nothing really hard to it about the oil lubricating. Usually, most of the time, you hear the term mix oil with gas. That's mainly for two strokes. This is an old broke down motor. And the main way you can tell is beginners, there's no piston ring there whatsoever. So that means if you ever find one of those, if you ever get a motor like that, that pretty much means that you have to get online and order yourself a new piston ring if you want this motor to run correctly. So how does oil lubrication work? Well, I'll show you. Now, as you see, this sprocket is usually hooked up to where your pull cord is when you pull it. So that's what this is right here. So it sets on like that, and when you pull that, so right there and right behind there is the crankshaft. It's a small little two-stroke crankshaft. Many of you probably know, if you look at this and then you go directly and look at this, you know, you automatically know this drives the piston up and down through the cylinder head, the block, the head, the jug. But there's really nothing to it. But most of you are wondering why it's not just a straight shaft, why it has to have this fat meaty thing right here. Well, that's where the oil lubrication comes in. So if you do not have oil in here, it'll end up looking like this. I don't know if you can see it, but if you look in my Home Light Bandit video I made, I believe 3 weeks ago, 2 or 3 weeks ago, I showed you this. This is the old one. I had to replace this because just the combustion chamber is worn out. When you put the piston in, there's no compression whatsoever. So how it works is, you know, if you have no oil in there, just like I said, the combustion chamber can get scratched and worn out. So what happens here is this sets in there. Okay, everything's got to be lubricated. So as it's running, it sits there and spins like that. I can't really do any. Kind of hard with one hand. Bear with me, guys. But like I said, it just sits there and spins. Now, what happens when the piston's on there and it spins, okay, is when it's going like that, okay, when it's up there, it's on the fire stroke. That means the piston's right up here, and usually there's a spark plug in the jug for it to fire, to make it run while it's running. And for it to lubricate, when it comes down, as you see, like the piston would be down at its lowest, and when it comes up, this right here, when there's oil in it, it'll swoop the oil up, and then, you know, when it's at a fast rate like that, it'll squirt the oil up, it'll splash the oil right up into the combustion chamber, and it'll therefore keep this baby right here lubricated. It'll keep the combustion chamber lubricated. So what happens? How does this keep lubricated? Well, good question. When it makes a spark and it fires down, well, the piston, hold on, fit that right in there. Okay, the piston fires and it comes down. When it's like that, when it comes down, usually when you have a ring around the piston, it usually just scrapes the oil off and squirts it way down. So therefore, squirts down, and there you go. There's your lubrication right here, and then it does the same process right here. And it goes up, just a continuing process. Now it's the same exact story over here with my four-wheeler over there. It's a single cylinder. It's a 4-stroke. It's a little different. What happens, you can't see, sorry guys, but what happens is there's a little chain that'll drive the cam, drive the crank. It'll come down from the transmission, because you know everything's got to be lubricated in there, obviously. But usually, I don't know if you guys can see, but where I got my hand at is where the dipstick's at, and probably lower than sin. I'm alright, but I gotta fill it up a little. But what happens is, right here is where the transmission is. What happens is you pour it in there and it directly lubricates the transmission, all the gears in there. So it goes from the transmission, all the gears moving when you start it. It lubricates the chain that drives the cam, and there's a little opening in there to lubricate the cam, and where the crank sprocket is, it lubricates the crank. And same story with the crank, like I just mentioned. But with old Betty right here, Black Betty, this baby's a 4-stroke, obviously. She's not diesel, she's unleaded. She sounds like a diesel when she's running. But I might as well just show you now. I got 3 minutes left. What happens here is, for lubrication, I'm probably not going to be able to show you guys because the motor's held together. Okay, let me get myself a light. There she be. Okay, for lubrication, there's an oil pump. Because as you see right there, for all you old timers that are seeing this, right there, right here with my hand right there, that's the valve covers. As you see, that's the engine oil cap right there. I mean, duh, says engine oil. Right there is the distributor. For you beginners, that's the spark plug. Those are all the spark plugs, V8. And got 8 spark plugs. What that does is when that distributor's running, it's run by the cam gear. And when that's running, at the end of the distributor cap is like a shaft, an oil pump shaft that drives the oil pump at the bottom, like at the way bottom of the block, like right before the oil pan. So that drives that right into the crank. Like I said, drives into the crank, and then there's a little opening for the small little opening, like very small, as you don't want no oil leaks with a dependable Ford. So dependable that's in the garage getting worked on. But you know, that's kind of how that works. I can get into that maybe later on. I'll show you that probably later on when I have the truck, because right now it's getting worked on. So that's pretty much all there is. If you ever do take apart a 2-stroke, it's not hard. Nothing's ever hard to take apart. It's putting it back together, guys. Don't ever say you can't do it, because you can do it. So that's how that works. When you take apart a 4-stroke, kind of forget that if this is beginners watching. But I'm out of time right now, guys. Thanks for watching very much.